Hi, everybody. Coach Lloyd here. Today we have another special guest. We have Denis Crean. He's the founder of WaveOne Open Water Swimming. He did that in 2009, and it specializes in developing and organizing programs, events, and coaching for open water swimmers and triathletes in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Denis shares his passion and open water swimming expertise with others by creating a safe and comfortable open water swimming environment to bring swimmers to their aha moments that forever change and transform their relationship with the water. Over 16,000 swimmers participated in events over the past 12 years. Of special note, Denis hosts and coaches the Potomac River Dolphins since 2012, a Special Olympics open water team. Some of its swimmers have gone on to compete in the Special Olympics World Games for open water swimming and completed distance swimming such as Washington's Crossing. Denis is an avid open water swimmer and ultramarathon open water competitor with an accomplished swimming record, to include some of the following marathon and swimming achievements. He's the first swimmer to complete the Washington, D.C. marathon swim, Potomac River chain bridge to Mt Vernon, which is 21 miles of swimming. Yes, you heard that right, 21 miles. He's done the 12.2 mile Anacapa Island swim, which is mainland California to Anacapa Island. He's done a 20-plus mile Catalina Channel swim in 2016. The 24-mile Tampa Bay Marathon swim, where he got first place. A 28.5-mile Manhattan Island Marathon swim. The International Ice Swimming Association Ice Mile swimmer. And he's the coach for USA Swimming National Team Select Camp in 2015. Denis is the father of 3 girls and 3 boys, ages 9 to 33. He lives in Washington, D.C., and some of his hobbies includes reading, prone paddleboarding, surfing, and tiny home design. Please welcome my guest, Denis Crean.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Hey, Denis, how's it going?
Great. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today.
Man, I mean, I've known about your open water experience, but I never realized it was that extensive.
It adds up over the years.
It does. You know, it just kind of creeps up on you. So what kind of got you into open water swimming?
I actually think I've been open water swimming most of my life, but not as a sport. You know, I've always enjoyed the ocean, and my father used to take me out, you know, when I was young, and, you know, I remember being totally scared, and that's changed, and the waves get bigger and you get totally scared again, and, you know, on and on. But I think it was just a natural progression from pool swimming, and just anywhere there was water, I'd jump in and swim. So it just, you know, then it led to real events.
Now, so I know you were swimming from a kid, and you also did water polo, right? Mm-hmm. So do you still do water polo, or?
I haven't lately. It's how I got back into swimming as an adult, though. Back in 1995, I signed up for local water polo and did that a couple of years, and then realized that I was better off. You know, I helped the team more out just by more swimming. I'm not big enough to move people around that much in the water. So I started just swimming more, and then met somebody who was running a program. He said, you know, come swim with us at 5 a.m. And I'm like, okay. And I did that. And so I started pool racing again. And then on the weekends would find an open water race and go out, you know, anywhere up and down the East Coast.
Okay. So I'm trying to get my, you know, I know of open water swimming. I know of pool swimming. I'm trying to bridge the gap in my brain between you know, what I would call normal, anything up to 2.5 miles of open water swimming. You know, that's standard or in the normal conversation of things. And now we jump into marathon open water swimming. So what is marathon open water swimming? Just so folks even understand what we're talking about.
Well, in terms of like the Olympics, the marathon open water swim is 10K. Okay. So you could say the marathon starts at 10K and then goes from there. Where that divide is, I'm not sure. I'd like to say it's at 20 miles. There's a number of 12.5 mile swims around. A friend of mine just did Key West, which is 12.5 miles. And that's there. I think, you just look out across the water and say, I'm going to go that way.
Oh, wow. Okay. So at some point when you were doing shorter distances, something said, okay, you know what, let's just kind of keep on going. Is this like a gradual, how do you get into that? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, that it's not a common everyday, like, let me swim, 10K in open water. Like, yeah. You don't hear that just kind of, going to the gym or hitting the pool.
Well, like most folly in life, it's peer pressure. So I'm swimming with a guy and I'm not sure how he found it, but he found the Tampa Bay Marathon, which is 24 miles, the length of Tampa Bay. And he did a relay and then did a solo. In the year he did a solo, I did a relay with two kids that I swam with. And, he turns to me and says, well, now you got to do it solo. So then the next year I trained for that. And, and so I went from 4.4, which was the Chesapeake Bay Bridge swim. That was the longest I had done before that, and made the jump to 24.
I like the way you just kind of rolled that off. Like, I just went from 4 to 24. I mean, like on land, if someone were to tell me I just went from a 4-mile run, just a little bit more than a 5K run, to all of a sudden I'm doing, 24 or a marathon, my eyebrows would go up. There'd be lots of questions. So I can only imagine doing that in water. So it sounds like you can also do it as a relay. So are most open water events or races, the marathon ones, as kind of, I guess, the gateway or the entry, you start off with doing it as a relay, whereas a couple of you doing it?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to start. I mean, that's how I got into it. And I think it opens up. You see the water, you see what's involved, you start learning about, nutrition, resting, conditions, everything involved, but you get it in more measured doses, like an hour at a time, and you're trading off with a couple other people. So the endurance of it isn't as strong and big.
Okay. So yeah. How do you train for, I'll start on the lower end for a 10K open water swim, is that all, going to your local pool and, getting those laps done, or is it, doing it all in open water to get accustomed to the open water? How, if someone's trying to get into marathon swimming, how do I transition or move into that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. I believe what I've discovered. Well, when I did Tampa, for example, they run that race on Earth Day in April. So, which is beautiful in Tampa, but up here, the water is still cold.
Yeah.
So I literally, it was 100% pool trained until 3 days before the race when I went down there. And then I jumped in and did a couple miles just to get used to the water. So,
I mean, but that was a 24-mile swim.
Yeah.
So you were cranking out 20 plus miles in the pool?
Well, what I did is, I basically I started training mid-December. The race was mid-April. And at that time I was swimming with the kids team. So they go into their winter break and they basically create a hell week. So I ended up just getting in shape just to do that. And we ended up doing about 110,000 yards in 10 or 11 days. So that established, let's say, base number one. Then it took me, being 30, 40 years older than these guys, 2 weeks to recover. And then I ramped it up, not quite as high and then down. But I figured that's all I can do to build that base. And I was swimming twice a day. Once in a while, got in 3 times a day just to get some yards in. But I peaked, the highest day was about 21,000 yards, which is about 13, 14 miles. So,
I'm processing that. I mean,
it's a lot of flip turns.
Yeah. I mean, I tap out after about 90 minutes of swimming. My brain shuts off. So I can only imagine, looking at the black line for extended hours, as you go. That's impressive. Now, one of the races that you did a couple years back was the Catalina channel swim. Right. So paint a picture of that for me. What is the Catalina channel swim?
Catalina channel is the difference, the channel that goes from Los Angeles or Palos Verdes, part of Palos Verdes Peninsula of Los Angeles, out to the Santa Catalina Island. So there's a channel there. It's about 21 miles, depending on how the crow flies. And you start on one side, you go to the other. It's just like, in my case, we take a boat out. So, yeah.
So now are there other competitors, 20, 30, 100 of you all doing this at the same time? Or is it a solo, you just pick the day and you say, I'm going out this Thursday, I'm going to take it on?
Yeah, no, you've got a plan. You hire a boat. And it's set up to the Catalina Channel Swimming Federation. So there's a federation, usually some kind of governing body for a lot of these major swims. So they help you. They can help you all the way up and down, from getting crew to, there's an observer on board because there are rules, and then safety things to follow. But then also hiring a pilot. So you set the time, the day, the time. Usually the pilot will then determine, okay, we're going to launch it. In this case, we start at night because the wind is less and the waters are a little calmer, and then finish in the day. So we took off, I think about 10 p.m. from San Pedro and motored across, and I jumped somewhere just before midnight, swim out to the island where, about 200 yards off the island, swim out to the island. You got to clear the water. So start on dry land. They blow the horn and off you go into the night, which is a whole different animal.
So, okay. So, all right. So you start off, they drop you off, you swim to land, the gun goes off, and it's just you.
There's a kayaker. So you've got the boat and then a kayaker.
Okay, so you have so there's a boat and a kayaker who's I guess supporting you. Now at night, I mean I've done some swims in fog and I can't see. So at night, are you now just following the lights of the boat or the kayaker? I mean, there's nothing to see. I take it. So how are you sighting or seeing where you're going or navigating?
Yeah, we'll put lights on the kayaker and the boat. So they'll hang some, we'll use glow sticks and then some of the small like bike lights, blinky lights. And then I had one on the back of my goggles. I had one on the back of my suit because it's nice that they can see you too. It's definitely a time you want to be seen, is when you're in the middle of the night in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Wow. Now, and what kind of water temperature are we talking? Is this wetsuit or no wetsuit?
Well, part of the rules are there's no wetsuit, so we go by English Channel rules.
Okay, what are some of the rules?
Basically, you need a what do they call it? I guess a water permeable costume. So for men, it's just Speedos. I think you can wear jammers, but no neoprene. Women, it's just regular suit. You're allowed one cap and goggles. You can grease up, and then that's it. It's you in the water.
Wow. So basically what you wear in a swim pool is pretty much what you get to use in the open water swim per the rules.
Right.
Okay. Now, at that time, is the water, yeah, everyone's tolerance for cold varies.
Right.
So, are we talking cold water, or is no big deal to be there without a wetsuit?
Well, I was lucky. The water temp was right around 68.
Okay.
So that's for me, and everybody is different. 68 is like a perfect swim forever open water temp.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was, like like San Francisco, they're always in the 50s, so I just had no idea as to like what you're working with there as far as, are you going to just, get hypothermia just being frozen to death out there for, for this thing. Now I had a question. Someone had a question on, how do you fuel with fluids and food during the swims?
I pretty much keep it to just fluids. So I'll do a mix, and the product I use is through Hammer Nutrition. So I use a perpetual mix. I'll add things to it, plus or minus, depending on, what the conditions are. But that's the base, and it's, mostly carbs. It's got some fat, some protein. So that's my base fuel. And for me, most times I'm taking 8 to 10 ounces about every 20 minutes.
Okay, so you swim up to the kayak, they hand you a water bottle, you take some of that, you put it back, and then just kind of keep on going.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be the whistle, or you see them holding out the bottle, if I'm watching, or they'll throw it just in front of me. So I swim over it, take it. It's, optimally 10, 15 seconds and then you're off.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So a little, now, are you regulating like your calories? Is it like, okay, hey, I know I'm going to burn this much, so I need to, you got to stay on top of the nutrition. I would suspect even more so than even on land, because you're just out there. Yeah.
No, it's based on the formula. So,
okay.
My body weight and then what I'm burning. And for example, it may be 1 scoop per 18 ounces for a swim like Catalina. I've done swims in reservoirs where it's 85 degrees. And so it's hot. So I'm going to drop the caloric in amount and then add electrolytes.
So are you figuring this out in real time, or is your crew doing the math and calculations for you and kind of like assessing you to say, okay, you know what, he's looking a little peakish, he's slowing down on the tempo, let's up the calories to make, or is it you trying to figure it out and judge for yourself?
I mix it all up the night before. So
okay.
I'll do bags of it that they can then just drop into the water bottles. And so like I said, I've got the base mixture, but if I'm starting to feel full, then I'll say, add some water, or we'll go an extra 10 minutes. If I ever feel like I'm cramping up, I may say, drop another, some more electrolytes in, anything like, we'll make minor adjustments, but the base, has worked so far. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, how long does a 20-mile swim take? I mean, if we're starting at midnight, I know my swim pace. I know it's not taking that long because I'm already getting discouraged. So I'm sure.
Oh, you go through that too, definitely. It all depends. Just to give you an example, Manhattan's 28.5. I did that in 7 hours 50. Let's see, Lake George, was 26, and we got called, and that was 12 and a half, and I had gone 25 miles. And then Catalina is 21, and that took me 16 hours, 18 minutes. So it depends on the current. I had a cross current virtually the whole way. And there were, anywhere up to, 1 to 4 foot swells at some point. So the plan was 11 hours.
Okay.
And as you go, I would turn and breathe and see the sun at one level. Then I'd keep going. Then I see the sun at a higher level. And then I'd look forward and I'm like, that land's not getting too much closer. I just see the sun going by.
So, I mean, is your watch telling you how far you've gone? I know for me, it's like, I need data and feedback to just, settle in. So, or is the crew telling you, all right, we're 5 miles in or 6, or at this point, we're not even doing those kind of mental games where
you're saying, don't ask.
Okay. They're like, just keep moving,
It depends.
Okay.
The deal I had with my observer, Forrest Nelson, who's super fun. And I met him years ago in Tampa, but we talked briefly and he's like, I'm not going to give you your distance. I'm not going to give you your time. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. Cause it plays with your head one way or the other. But as I said, as the sun kept moving, I'm like, how far am I? And they're like, I'm not going to tell you, and, I'd come up again. I'm like, how far am I? And finally I was like, am I at least halfway? And they said, he paused and because I know he's thinking, I know I wasn't going to tell him, but he was like, you're halfway. You're at least halfway.
Yeah, at least.
But what I didn't know, I was just about halfway, just past halfway. I'm thinking, oh, good. I got maybe 75% done.
Right.
Yeah. It kept coming.
Oh, man. I'm still wrapping my mind around, 12 hours of swimming, 16 hours of swimming. Yeah, that is it's a lot. Now, so that was Catalina, and then one of the early ones you mentioned about the Manhattan Island Marathon swim, 28 miles. So a lot of it is based on, I guess, like you said, with Catalina, they had the cross current, so all of that kind of comes into the overall pace and time and all those factors. So in this one where you came in third, is it everybody, is like in triathlon or, shorter races, we're all racing together. Whereas Catalina, you had a crew by yourself. In Manhattan, is it like a couple hundred of us out there starting together?
No, a couple hundred. It was about, I think that day it was 22.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it's different. Now they're doing, sometimes it's just a pair. Sometimes there's more of a group. But yeah, back then I think there was about 20, a little over 20. There may have been some relays. So I forget. But yeah, they blow the whistle and off you go. And with Manhattan, and I've got a bunch of people I'm working with now and in our group that are doing Manhattan actually next week. Two of my friends are, and we've got a couple more this summer, and we're all looking at how the currents go. But essentially, most of the time you're starting at the southern tip at the Battery and in the Hudson, and then you swim down to the East River. I think it's about a mile. It's not that far. And then you pick up the current of the East River on an incoming tide. And you ride that actually pretty quickly until you hit Mill Rock and the Harlem River. And depending on how things are timed, in my case, the tide was still coming against us. So we swam for about an hour and a half, not going very far. And then finally it shifted and we were able to get through that.
Okay.
And so then you've got the current with you in the Harlem. And then once you go into the Hudson, you start moving typically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me switch gears here and go into back to a little bit of preparing and training for these types of things. Outside of swimming, are you, do we need to do strength training, weightlifting? So Sean asked the question of, do you find yourself getting more lean or more buff with the amount of swimming that you're doing? What am I working on as I try to do endurance swimming?
You definitely need the strength. So you do need to do dry land work. So there's weights involved, a lot of core work. So much of swimming is core. And, what I really felt in some of the longer races, particularly Catalina, is just, after a while, your core is just breaking down. As soon as you do that, your legs drop, you start losing your body position, and it just makes everything a lot harder. But what I've learned is you actually use your core muscles to drive the power of your stroke, and your arm, the catch of your stroke is really, the objective is just to hold the water and let the rotation of your core kind of act as almost like an Archimedes screw. As you rotate through, you move forward. So that's why core is so strong, is so important. And then the other thing too is having a strong core actually takes pressure and work off your shoulders. So, but you still need to have, do shoulder work. Not as much leg, but what I've learned is having not a super strong kick or no kick, but somewhere in the middle, that again helps maintain your body position, which ultimately, if you're up on the water, you're streamlined, you're in a position of less resistance, so you can move through with less effort, and you're more efficient.
Okay.
So
now that you've done your open water swims, your marathon swims, I know you started WaveOne to help the rest of us who want to get into open water swimming or need an opportunity. So, let everyone know a little bit more about WaveOne. I know you guys swim a couple days a week here in the metro area, but just tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, the history is it was really a result of the Tampa Bay swim. So when I was, and again, that was the first long swim, and I didn't know what to expect, but I felt extremely good. My crew was like, "You guys, you're doing great. You're right at the front of the pack." And it dawned on me that it can be more than just making it. And I'm like, all right, well, if that's the case, keep me at the front of the pack. I'm going to do everything I can to finish first. And if it's my day, it's my day. But that also, simultaneously, I realized this is where I feel at home. That had an impact on me, and I didn't know how. I didn't ask questions. I just said, kind of, show yourself to me. And that over the next couple of years turned into WaveOne, and it was basically, where's a place that we can swim around here in the DC metro area and not get arrested and be safe, relatively safe, and have fun and get out there. And so it was more started in that vein, and then turned into more of a teaching. I got more into coaching. I was asked to cover a practice, and that started a whole other thing. And so we started doing clinics, and there was a hunger for it. We knew the sport was going to grow, and so.
Yeah, it's grown a lot over the years. So now with open water swimming, what are some of the personal challenges of open water swimming, and kind of like let me know how you can develop strength, and some courage by working through those fears of open water swimming. Because I know I work with lots of athletes in the pool, and I always let them know, like, hey, listen, pool swimming and open water swimming are swimming, but they're totally different sports here. So just because you're good in the pool, that's not a guarantee of how you're going to respond in open water.
Right. No, it is different. I mean, a lot of the mechanics are the same, but there's people go into a different state when they look down on the edge of the dock or and can't see the bottom anymore. Let alone after they go for 2 or 3 minutes and look back and don't see too much either. So, I would say just overcoming that fear, the uncertainty, the conditions are different. The pool is, it's exactly 25 yards or 25 meters, to the inch. And everything is structured, whereas open water, almost nothing is structured. And you're at the whims much more of nature. And every swim is different. So as we say, every swim is different. So you've got to treat it differently, and you've got to expect the unexpected, which I know is an overused statement, but it's so true. And for me, I think it was, I love getting into the kind of the planning, the calculations of, okay, how is this water going to flow? Where do I want to be in a river or in the ocean? How do I want to plan my race or my swim to take advantage of the conditions? But then invariably show up and the wind's not blowing out of the north, it's blowing out of the south. So, then how do you adjust to that? And personally, I that's one of the things I love is, how do I adapt to the conditions? How do I take advantage of my assets? How do I take advantage of the conditions and, and do the best I can? And what it's, every race, every swim, I've learned something. It's evolved into more of kind of even a spiritual level that I didn't realize initially. Okay. And you just discover, particularly when you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and there's 3,000 feet of water below you, and who knows what else.
I've got a vivid imagination, so I try not to think about it.
Yeah. So, but it's what I've come to love the most about the sport. And then all the people that I've met and interacted, I've had a number of crews, all of which have been perfect. I couldn't have, some I planned, some I didn't plan. And whatever didn't happen or I couldn't compensate for, it all worked out. And that's just taught me a lesson of, you just do the best you can, you adapt, and the best outcome is going to be the result. Okay. You just take that and run with it.
Okay. Now, I'm a person who I'm cold averse. Whenever I go on swims with clients and we do open water events, I'm the one athlete who's gonna put on my wetsuit because it's cold. Whereas others, whenever it's barely at races where I call it barely wetsuit legal, I'd be like, you probably don't want to wear it because you're gonna overheat, and those kind of things. But I know there's some information out there about cold water swims and the benefit of it. So can you dive into that a little bit for me?
Sure. I really discovered cold water about 3 years ago, and just it was a season in which we had so many swims canceled that we just got to October and we're like, we just need to keep swimming. And so we'd meet down at Sandy Point or somewhere out in Chesapeake Bay, and 68 turned to 65, which turned to 60, and so on. And the 15, 20 people turned to 12 and then 8. But I had a friend, Oslin, and we started swimming together. She had swum through the winter before. And so we would find a place and go out. And as the temperature kept dropping, we just kept going. And she encouraged me a lot. And almost every single time, stand at the water's edge and it would be freezing. And, now it's getting into the 50s, and then it starts going under 50. And, of course, I start thinking things like, oh, well, it's 50. We should do 5,000 at 50 because it's a nice round number, So that's where I think a lot of us get into trouble, or, hey, that looks really cool way out over there. Let's go there and back. Who cares if it's.
The sad thing is I follow that logic. So.
But, just one day, and she threw out there's a winter festival up in Vermont where they literally cut a 2-lane 25-meter pool out of a frozen lake. And she's like, oh, you could do that. I'm like, I have no desire to swim in frozen water in a lake at 0 degrees in Vermont. And then 2 weeks later, she's like, yeah, I know you could do it, because now it's dropped another 5 degrees. And so long story short is I did it. But it was the process that I really learned a lot from. And, most of the way through the season, I realized a couple things. I felt a lot better. I mean, I had more energy. I felt more alive. I had gone through, what turned out to be years of seasonal depression through the winter.
Okay.
Just because I'm so used to so much sun during the summer that started going away. Well, going out there 2 or 3 times a week and with the cold, it was probably the best winter I ever had, as far as, psychologically. So and then I studied a little bit more in hormonal, what's produced, endorphins and everything. And it would kick in, so we would swim. And the joke is we'd have people say, oh, can we swim with you? What facilities do you have? And we look at each other like, facilities? It's you go in, you get out, you dry off, you jump in your car and hit the heater on high, and so we call that the car sauna. But as I would drive home, about 20, 25 minutes in, all of a sudden I realized I'd be going over the swim and thinking, oh, this was great. We had a great time. And then I'm like, oh, my kids are doing well. And, oh, I haven't talked to this friend and I really miss him or her. And, and it was just like, everything felt great. And it was like this sense of love. It was like, nothing's wrong. Everything's great. And I realized after a couple of times this happening, I'm like, wait a second, there's a pattern here. So in that regard too, and then just health wise, and a lot more has become popular with, Wim Hof's work. I don't know if you heard of Wim Hof, the Iceman, over in the Netherlands, but he's done a lot of work on his own with cold water submersion. And this is part of, XPT's work as well. But essentially what's happening is the shock in your body, how it trains your parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous systems. Cold shock proteins, the immunity, how it strengthens and enlarges and increases your capillary action. And so long way of saying that if, 70 is cold for you or 78, you want to get the wetsuit, is that you can adjust. I think everybody can adjust. Very few have some kind of, maybe some physical conditions that you can't, but it just takes time. It builds, the other thing came out of it is just the mental of making yourself do something that your entire body is saying, run away, so yeah, there were just immense benefits that I had no idea. And, we get to the point where we actually want to get back in the cold water, which is a sickness in itself.
I've got some, with cold water. I was out in San Francisco with my wetsuit some time ago, and there were lots of swimmers in the cove without wetsuits, and I just looked like, okay, I couldn't imagine, but I think I'm going to put that on now that I heard you say it, I'm going to, next time I'm out that way, I may try to go in for a moment, sand wetsuit and see how long I can survive. Yeah. Now you mentioned with the cold water, how it affects the parasympathetic and sympathetic system. Now I know that also can be affected with breathing, and breathing with, plays a big part in how you feel throughout the swim. And I'm sure it plays an even bigger role in marathon open water swimming. So, can you dive in a little bit and kind of explain breathing when it comes into, with these long open water swims and what we should know, as it applies to the swims?
Well, so originally I'm thinking, and this goes back to early days of just getting back into swimming. I had a coach who was a distance swimmer, and he taught me how to basically race distance and negative split. And I got a lot of ideas on training. And one of the things that we talked about is, do we start out, bilateral breathing every third, or go fifth in the beginning of a race and then drop back to every breath? And he said, no, you want to start out breathing because you don't want to go into oxygen debt. So, and we're talking about 1,000 yards or a mile swim. So comparatively speaking, that's shorter. So from that, I said, I like to breathe, I like oxygen. So I'm just going to breathe every other stroke. And that's what I've done most of my life. But in the last year or two, and I'm working with a great guy, Bob Solier of Breathe Your Power. And he's really gotten deep into different, the whole exploration of breathing. And there's a lot that's been written. Patrick McEwen wrote The Oxygen Advantage, and he's studied a lot of the effects of different types of breathing. But we're looking at it and how it does relate to swimming, because one of the foundations is nasal breathing and the benefits of nasal breathing, and the development of nitrous oxide as you breathe in, how the air is actually treated prior to going into your lungs, and the benefits of that physiologically. But then the other thing is the actual physical breathing. So using your diaphragmatic breathing. Okay. And so you're pulling down. And what I realize is as we swim, and I've timed it out, it's about, at least for me, I do 60 strokes, somewhere around 60 strokes per minute in a marathon swim. So that's 1 stroke per second. So every 2 strokes I'm breathing. So that's 2 seconds. And I looked at, okay, how much time am I actually, my mouth is exposed? Because you can't breathe through your nose. So you've lost the whole nasal part of it. But then how, so it's in the neighborhood of about 0.2 of a second. So you can't do those long, deep inhales.
Right.
You can do the longer exhales underwater. So what we're exploring is really adapting so that we're inhaling diaphragmatically and pulling that air down. Because if you can pull the air deeper into your lungs, your blood becomes much more oxygenated. Okay. So the key, one of the key components of fueling your muscles, you need oxygen, as well as the other nutrients. So that's something we're getting into. I've played with it a little bit. We don't have a lot of science on it. I don't know if we will, because I don't know how many are going to be studying swimmers. But, if we can see that we can go longer with less effort,
So if you're if you're breathing every 2, so you got that side, do you now at some point switch it up and go 2 on the other side, or you just kind of stay on, the same, turn into the same left or right for the duration?
Yeah, I think for going that amount of time, you do need to mix it up, whether you do a straight, breathe every third. So 1 on the left, 1 on the right, 1 left on the right, something like that. So you stay totally balanced. Other things enter into it. It could be the direction of swells or wave or wind. It could be where your kayaker is, where you sight. But ultimately, you need to mix it up. Otherwise, you just get too unbalanced after a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, with new swimmers getting into open water swim, whether they're triathletes or they just get into open water swimming recreationally, I'm looking for a couple, what are some of the common mistakes that folks make, or, couple tips that they should look into when they're doing open water swims?
I think kind of know your assets. So assuming that you've been swimming in the pool, is, feel comfortable with your stroke, know some drills, know that you can do X number of yards and get through it. So what you can do in the pool, you can do in the open water. The next thing is go slow. don't jump in and say, I'm going to, do a mile or 2 or 24. But, I teach people you can't swim fast until you can swim slow. So get in, adapt, get comfortable with your stroke, swimming slowly, be gentle with yourself. You're going to go through a certain amount of fears. The anxiety comes up. It goes through all of us. We never know when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going along and all of a sudden I'll look back at the shore and, people are like that big. And I'm like, no one would know if I disappeared right now, and that feeling just goes right through you. And
yeah.
So you just, then you just go back. Okay, what do I know? Well, I got to put my face down and start stroking. And that's why I break it down to one stroke at a time. And so, I have people, every time we do a swim, there's some new people that are on the dock, and I'll watch them go right up to the edge and they look down and then they step back and then they go right up to the edge and they look out and then they step back, and I'll let them do that for a while and see if they can find the place on their own, to take that step and jump in. But then I'll go through with what I just was talking to you is, okay, what have you done in the pool? Okay, you can do that. It's the same thing. We don't have the black line, but you still want to look straight down. You want to get your body in a good position, and then just count. Every time you put your hand in, that's one stroke. Go 25 and see how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Take a break, do another 25, and stay in close, get comfortable. And then if you want to start doing more, you can do more. And, and that's what, if I have somebody that's new and they jump in and they can just get in and just swim in front of the dock for 15, 20 minutes and not even go out, into the river, that's a victory, because I'll know they'll be back. And then they're like, I'm ready to do the course, and then they do one lap.
Now, what are some of the mistakes that you see often?
It's probably exactly the same thing I just said. Thinking just like the pool. And then you come up and it's like, hey, this is not like the pool.
Right.
But let's see. I think it is, you go through things. I mean, there's different levels of anxiety or fear. And typically, if you break them all down, it leads to death. So ultimately, none of us want to die, but that then translates into different ways, whether it's, going to be breathing too hard or shortening stroke or, whatever, or just freezing up. So it's, try to separate yourself from the feeling.
Okay.
And do what you know to do, and take it slow, be gentle with yourself, and be open to how you can adapt.
Okay. So whatever I'm doing in the pool, that's pretty much what I should be looking to do with open water. So if I'm swimming a mile in the pool, I can broach looking at a mile in open water. If I've only swam 500 in the pool, I probably shouldn't be showing up looking to try to attempt a mile in open water. Make it comparable.
Make it comparable, but give yourself a lot of leeway. Give yourself at least that first time. Maybe it is just getting in, treading water, just swimming around in a circle for 10, 15 minutes, and maybe make it more time instead of distance. So it's not the distance; it's it's more at that point. I think it's more comfort and just building up comfort, building up confidence. Because as an athlete, if you're tight, you're not going to be efficient either. So to try to get relaxed, find your place. I'll tell people, let the water hold you. Mm-hmm. So you just get in there and you want to kind of fight the water in a sense and be in control. No, surrender. Let the water hold you and feel it and hold it.
That's a tough one to do, though.
It is.
If you're nervous and you're scared, to trust it, to feel it. Yeah. I'll
tell people to close their eyes. I close my eyes, swim with my eyes closed probably half the time. Just close your eyes. There's nothing to look at down there anyway, you know, and just imagine yourself swimming in the pool, just nice and effortlessly. And, you know,
Yeah,
breathe.
That's
Exhale.
interesting. One of the things I was having people start to do was close their eyes in the pool and swim a little bit, so they start to get a sense of which direction they drift towards.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that when you do open water, you know, if the water isn't crystal clear, you know, it's a lake or whatever, and you can't see, your visibility is limited. You know, you know your tendency to, you know, swing to the right or the left, so that you kind of make those adjustments, knowing your normal swim tendency just in general. So it's interesting to know that you also close your eyes from time to time in open water on these things.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and then the opposite is true too, is sight. So, you know, practice sighting, practice those skills, which you probably teach people in the pool as well, is just get used to lifting up, looking around, keeping your head as low as possible. Because I've seen swimmers, and actually really experienced, I crewed for somebody in Tampa Bay, matter of fact, and we took off in the beginning, and the swimmers started, and we're off to the side because we can't get in too close yet. And she's swimming along, great pace, right in the pack. All of a sudden we looked up, and she's swimming literally backwards back to the starting line. Somehow in a split second, totally reverse course. And I'm like, to a kayaker, I'm like, get in and go. And you got to turn her around. So, yeah, that's why I would say sight often, because anything can happen all of a sudden. So
I've been there. I've been in, you know, where you're in the pack, and then all of a sudden you notice that you're by yourself, and I realize I've gone way, you know, way off course. And you look over like, man, how did I get here? I was just in the thick of it with everyone else. So yeah. Now I know you also have a blog called Swim Toward the Shark. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Swim Toward the Shark. Well, the title and the idea came to me watching a documentary called Fish People, short documentary by surfer Keith Malloy, and he profiled 6 different people, one of which happens to be Lynn Cox. But the person that I was mostly intrigued with is Kimmy Werner, and she's a spear fisher person in Hawaii, and she has adapted herself to the water in such a way that she would catch a fish, and a shark would be coming toward her, and she basically would stop and say, "Hey, not today. This one's mine, buddy." And the shark would swim away. And it was that kind of confidence and, you know, literally facing the shark. She actually went on to, there's a famous Patagonia, I think on their website, has her holding on to a fin of probably at least a 15-foot great white. And she's just going right with it. It's amazing. But it's that level of, you know, internal confidence and zen. So that's where I got it. And it goes along with kind of train for the worst conditions, you know, all that kind of thing. So I like that general idea. It's a place I want to be, that I want to move toward. And so what I'll do is I just take an idea. Usually I have an idea from a swim. One of the ones I wrote about was threshold. And I realized that, you know, tell me if you can relate to this in endurance racing, is that, you know, you go into it and I've got, say, 20 miles and you're saying to yourself, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to quit. You know, you've done everything you can to make that happen. Crew's on board the whole bit. But you get out there, you know, and at some point you're kind of in no man's land, and you're going along, and, you know, anything can happen. There's still anything that can happen. And then you keep going, you work the plan, you make adjustments. But at some point toward that end, you're like, I got this. There's no way I'm not coming up on that beach, you know? And it's just that certain, feeling of certitude that that makes it all worthwhile. It's almost, I would say it's almost, or if not more comparable to actually finishing. It's because it's totally internal, and you're still out there, and there's still all kinds of variables, but it's like, that's the threshold. I got this.
You just kind of make it up in your head, and you're just resolved to it.
Yeah. It's like whatever pain, whatever, all the difficulties that you went through are just gone. You just don't feel it anymore. And so it's different ideas like that. One I'm working on is I'm calling grip. I just give them one word titles.
Okay.
And it's an experience I had with a swimmer at my camp. We do camps. I'm doing 3 times a year down in North Carolina, open water swim camp for 4 days. But it's a lot of times for people that want to learn how to adjust to the water. And she had a bad experience in a tri in Utah, and we're getting into the ocean, and it was big that day. It was blowing at 15, 18 knots, and waves were 2 to 4. And as we get in, she's adjusting, but then we reached that point where she just gripped my hand and was not going to let go. And I'm like, let's stay with this. Let's see how far we can do, what we can do with that. And we stayed a little while and then came back in. And then she went out the next day and ended the camp actually just kicking butt on a 1.5 mile swim out, a couple hundred yards offshore. We had a great swim, but it was, what does that grip mean? How do you get to that point? How do you get past that point? So it's just, I just have fun with it. If I haven't experienced it, and there's not a lot of how-to, but it's like, it's stuff that makes an impact on me, and I just like to share it.
Okay.
That's all.
I like that.
We'll do some how-tos in the future, but
okay. Well, those types of experiences, when shared, when you read them, you realize that you're connected to them. It applies to so many people who've had that exact same experience. So even if it's not on how-to, it's just, we've all been there, or you can see yourself in the experience and have great takeaways. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, I know the season is just getting started. What are the days, for those in the DMV who are looking for open water opportunities, what does the schedule look like this season for them?
Right now, we've got our weekly swims going Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:30 in the evening. We go for about an hour and 15 minutes or so at National Harbor, Maryland. And then Sundays, 8:30 in the morning. We happen to have our cicada swim coming up this Sunday. It happens once every 17 years. So join in this Sunday. The next one's in 2038. But we're going to set a course that you can do, 1,700 meters or 1.7 miles. And then we've got a virtual edition if you want to go more like 17 miles. We're going to go to July 17th. So you can do a virtual edition and have fun with that. But we've got that. And then in September, we have Swim for the Potomac race. And then we're real excited. We're just about ready to announce official applications for, actually some just went out, for the DC Marathon swim. So in 2019, Jim Loretto and I swam from Chainbridge down to Mt Vernon. It was 21 miles. So we're the first people to swim through the navigable waters of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And this time we're going to do it legally.
Okay. So 20. All right.
But yeah, so that's going to come up October 8th. And that's actually spurring a lot of different things. We've got involved with the Anacostia Riverkeeper. They've got a splash in September, and I'm looking at putting together a nonprofit program for folks in that area to get into open water that have not, been introduced to open water and swimming, because we're looking at potentially building a river pool on the Anacostia, which would be fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're working with them.
Now you have your someone's asking about your next. She's asking about your next camp in North Carolina, and where do they sign up for that?
It's on the website, WaveOneOpenWater.com, and that is September 30th through October 3rd.
Okay.
So
now,
down in Statesville Beach.
Are we going to get any camps here in the DMV? Any similar camps, or you're only going to take those out of town?
We're doing something.
Okay.
And we've got, I do clinics. The advantage of that location, it's a little bit warmer, so we've done it typically. We did one in April and May, so no wetsuits to Lloyd. The ocean's typically at least in the 70s, but out the back door is the Atlantic, out the front door is the Intercoastal Channel. So you've got a nice variety of water. So we can work with all different levels and practice a lot of different open water conditions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds pretty good. Well, Denis, I won't take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you chit-chatting with me, sharing some of those experiences with you. I know that if folks are looking for you, they can find you at on Facebook at WaveOne Swimming. Your IG is Denis Crean. If they need to shoot you an email, I have it up here for them. And of course, everything, the schedule and everything for all your events can be at WaveOneOpenWater.com for those of you looking to get some open water experience here in the DMV. And of course, if you're in the Carolinas, if you're looking to head up that way, you can go for one of those long camps. But thank you so much. I look forward to hanging out a little bit more with. I got to get my crew out there to do some open waters with you this summer for sure, as they get ready for this season's events.
Yeah, we've got a place for you, Lloyd.
Appreciate it.
And I appreciate the time and your audience. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. And I will catch up with you a little bit later.
All right. Thank you.
If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button.